December 1st, 2022, I quit my 9-to-5 job to go full-time coaching athletes online. And since that time, I trained over 250 athletes completely online and now run a consulting company where I've helped just shy of 500 coaches grow their coaching businesses online. And I've made almost $3 million in that amount of time, which is absolutely insane. And in 10 years ago, if you would have asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, if I would have told you that it was online sports coach or online business mentor for sports coaches, people would have looked at me like I was crazy, and I would not have believed that either. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through how that actually happened, how it all transpired, and how I've gotten to be in this position where I'm at right now. And if I look back at who I was, the world has such a funny way of working out. And if I look back at who I was in high school and in college and in my first job and everything like that, everything worked out so incredibly perfectly. But let me take you guys back to the type of kid I was in high school. So in high school, I was constantly studying, not for school. I wasn't reading my textbook. I barely did any homework. I didn't really like to go to class. I was always I remember faking sick so that way I didn't have to go to school. The only reason I went to school was so that way I could be eligible. And fortunately enough, I had a pretty good memory. So I did fairly well in school, but I did not take my school seriously at all. All I wanted to do was play baseball. It was my entire life. It was my entire identity. And I mentioned that I studied a lot. What I studied was training programs, swings, fielding, throwing. All I was studying was athletes and how to get better at my sport. I was so obsessed with it that I would go to the cage with my teammates and I would start helping them with their swing. And I would video every single swing that I took, and I would video things that I did in the weight room. And still to this day, I have that drive to continue to improve. I still take videos of my training to this day. Like, that seed was planted at a really young age. And so when it came to the recruiting process, I didn't care how good of a degree it was that I got. I wanted to go to the best possible school that I could for baseball, not for academics. And so I ended up, ironically enough, going to the University of Notre Dame my freshman year of college. I actually did 5 years of high school as well. Went to IMG Academy so that way I could get more opportunities to go to better baseball schools. And fortunately enough, I had the opportunity to go to the University of Notre Dame. And when I was at the University of Notre Dame, I was the same kid. I was the same kid, but now I didn't have my parents around. And so, I'm not proud to say it, man enough to admit it. I was a baseball major with a double minor in partying and picking up girls. That's all I cared about in college. I didn't like to go to class. I didn't like to study. I was just trying to get by. All I cared about was sports. And my plan A was to play in the major leagues. And I didn't really entertain any other option. And when people asked me what else I was going to do, I'll never forget, I would just tell people yeah, I'm just going to play in the show. That's what I'm going to do. And then as I went on throughout my career in college, I was just oh yeah, whenever I'm done, I'll just get into coaching, ironically enough, right? And I didn't want to do anything else besides that. And so my freshman year at University of Notre Dame, I was a business path major. You're not technically allowed to declare a major as a freshman at the University of Notre Dame, but I was on the path to be in the business school. And they have one of the best business schools in the entire country. And I didn't care about that at all. I literally did not care about that at all. And now people will ask me, what did you study in college? Were you a marketing major? I'm like, nah, dude. I was a baseball major with a double minor in partying and picking up women. That's what I cared about. Not proud of it, man enough to say it, okay? So I walked away from the University of Notre Dame degree after my freshman year. I just wasn't happy. But honestly, at the time, I was the type of person who would go outside and would complain that it was too bright outside and it was too sunny. And then it would rain and I would be like, it's never sunny here. I was that type of person, if you can kind of get the vibe. And so I transfer after my freshman year at University of Notre Dame to a junior college. And I end up getting an associate's degree in general studies, AKA I'm a baseball major, right? I was there at the junior college. It's called San Jac College at the time. We finished third that year in the country. And I was the starting shortstop on that team, and our team was loaded with a bunch of really good players. But we were there to play baseball. Don't get it twisted. We were there to play baseball, and that's all pretty much anybody on that team cared about. That and maybe like smoking weed before the game. You know, we had a couple of guys on the team that would do that with regularity that were actually really good. It was actually unbelievable. But anyway, I digress. So then my junior year, I go to the University of South Carolina, and they're like, what do you want to major in? And at this point, I'm not going to be a business major because I just came from a junior college. And plus, I really didn't care. I was trying to play baseball. I was trying to play baseball for as long as I could. And, you know, if it didn't work out, then I'd probably just get into coaching. I'd figure it out. I always had this unwavering belief that I was going to figure it out. Maybe it was a little bit of delusional confidence that I was going to get it right. But anyway, I end up switching my major. I started off as a broadcast journalism major because I was thinking maybe I wanted to be like a sideline reporter. I liked the idea of being in front of the camera, which ironically enough now, it's so funny how this all works out because this is literally what I do for a living. I speak to a camera for a living, which is insane. But I realized that I didn't really want to be a reporter, so I switched to a communications major. And this whole time, I'm really not going to class. You know, all I really cared about was partying and playing ball. That's all I cared about. My entire identity was in playing ball. But mind you, in my free time, all I'm doing is studying swings. Like, I am such a nerd about it when I'm in college. Like, I am sitting there like analyzing my swing over and 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 over again. And to be quite honest with you, I needed an online hitting coach or somebody who I trusted to get me out of my own way. And I was so stubborn at the time that I'm not sure anybody could have actually helped me. But anyway, you get the point of who I was in college. And after my junior year of college, I got cut from the University of South Carolina because I was such a dome job. I won the starting shortstop job and then played my way out of the lineup. And then at the end of the year, they're like, yeah, we can't keep you because you suck pretty much. And I'll never forget, about halfway through the year, my coach pulled me aside and he was like, I'm going to need you to be a better teammate because you're lucky to even be at this level right now. And, you know, you need to play your role. He was like, you're going to make your living with your brain. You're a very smart kid, but, you know, you're lucky to even be at this level. And I took it super offensively, obviously, because there was a little part of me deep down inside of me that didn't believe that I actually meant to be there. I think what he was saying was, like, people would kill to be in your position and you need to start being more grateful. And that, like, look, you're probably not going to be a big leaguer, but that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the experience. That's really what he was saying. And he was right. But at the time, I did not take that well. I didn't take it well. I was like, this guy sucks. He's putting a limit on my career or whatever. So end of the year anyway, get cut. And I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. And the craziest part is that I went to go play summer ball. Fortunately enough, they got me with this team in the Valley League in Virginia. And I went to go play there. And within the span of a week, I got cut from my summer ball team, from that team. My girlfriend broke up with me. And then I was supposed to go to Missouri. Missouri offered me a scholarship. I was about to commit to go to Missouri, or I was about to go on an official visit to Missouri, and I was going to commit on that visit. And right before I went and visited, they were like, hey, Nick, the SEC is blocking you from transferring. This is when they had just started to lift some of the restrictions. But they were like, hey, Nick, you're the SEC is blocking you from transferring, so you'd have to sit out a year, so it's probably not going to work. And I was like, okay. So I visited Virginia Commonwealth just recently before that. And so I called Virginia Commonwealth as soon as I heard that. And I was going to high school in Northern Virginia at the time, so I knew people that were at VCU, and they seemed to have a really good culture, and like I knew I was going to fit in there. I knew it was going to be awesome. And I call them, I'm like, hey, I'll never forget it. I'm like, hey, I want to be a Ram. And they're like, that's awesome, Nick, but we gave your scholarship away. So if you come here, it's going to be on no scholarship. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Because for context, I went to the University of Notre Dame and University of South Carolina on just roster spots. I didn't have scholarships at either of those places. And I didn't like telling people that. I was very ashamed of it. I wanted people to think I was on scholarship because I was so insecure. All I wanted people to think that I was really good. Anyway, so I have no idea what I'm going to do at this point. And I'm thinking I may not even play baseball. Maybe I go back to South Carolina as just a student and be a frat star. Like maybe that's what I end up doing. And so, I'm thinking about it, and all of a sudden I get a call from the recruiting coordinator in Missouri, and he's like, hey, I got the head job at Southern Illinois. Do you want to come here? And I was like, I guess. They gave me full tuition. All I had to do was pay for my housing. And I was like, yeah, like why not? Let's do it. And so I went to Southern Illinois, and I was a university studies major. And the only thing that I really took out of Southern Illinois was I took this one class called team building. And so for a little bit of context, this university studies major is any 300 level class or above counts towards the major of university studies, AKA it's the athlete degree. So I walk away from University of Notre Dame degree. I go to a junior college. I get cut from the University of South Carolina. I have 2 schools who I really wanted to go to fall right through my hands. And then now I'm at Southern Illinois, who won like 22 games the year before. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm probably not going to be in the bigs. Like, I might as well just make partying and getting women my major, my double major, and now minor in baseball. And that's exactly what I did. And why am I telling you all this? Well, the one class that I took in college that had the biggest impact on me was called team building. And in that class, we had a presentation at the end that was like putting together a slide deck that was going to be like for a job interview. And I'll never forget, the professor of that class was like 80 something years old. He was part of the SIU gymnastics team that went like 50-0 and won like a national championship. He's in the Illinois Coaching Hall of Fame for like 3 sports. He just like picked up a sport to coach and then would take the high school team to win the state championship. Just like that type of guy. Tony Calabrese changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to run a business. He's like, what kind of business? I was like, I don't know yet. He's like, well, you should figure that out. And I'm like, well, I'm playing baseball, bro. That's what I'm worried about. Like, I would just tell people, yeah, I'm going to run my own business, because I couldn't imagine going to work. I had such a negative relationship with going to work, just seeing how stressed out my parents were about work all the time. I didn't want to go to work. That's not what I wanted to do. And fortunately enough, my parents gave me the freedom to explore and express myself and figure out what it was that I wanted, whether that was because they were just so busy with their own work that they weren't, around or gave me a whole lot of attention when I was growing up. Not that there was, I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but that's kind of how it was. And so I was very much like a free thinker, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna start my own business. And I end up giving a presentation, get this, about how I was a business consultant, and that was my final presentation. That was what I was planning on doing after I got done with college, okay? But still at this point, baseball is plan A, because it turns out that after the 2020 COVID year, I came back and I figured out how to hit for the first time really consistently in my college career. Hit like 17 home runs, set a single season school home run record. And then I play 10 days of independent pro baseball, which is up until just recently was the only regret that I ever had in my entire career was signing that contract. Because after I quit baseball on my 24th birthday, because to be quite honest with you, I got there and I was like, yeah, this is the end. I don't want to do this. This decreased my status. I don't want to do this. And I got calls, or at least my coach got calls from affiliate teams, and I just told them to tell them I was done, that I didn't want to play anymore. I wasn't interested. So now I'm 24 years old. I have a university studies degree from Southern Illinois University. I have no skills. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And on top of that, during my last year at Southern Illinois, I got to know the coaches pretty well. And I saw the lives that they were living and what was required to be a college coach, which is what I was hanging my hat on the entire time. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't want to do that. That's not the life that I want. And so all I knew was that I wanted to make something of myself. And so I saw that these people that were super successful and wealthy on the internet, they were all in real estate. And so I got the genius idea that I'm going to get into real estate, learn the industry, and then eventually make all my money in real estate. I was like, okay. So my mom had a family friend who was working as a mortgage broker. And so he offered me the job and was like, hey, as long as you pass this test, you can come work for me. And so I get a job bagging groceries at Kroger in Carbondale, Illinois, and while I'm studying for the mortgage loan officer test. And during that period of time, I never felt more aimless. I was drinking like pretty much every night because I felt like I no longer had any purpose. And it was a really tough pill to swallow. Because my entire life, I placed my whole identity in the sport of baseball, in my ability to perform. And then boom, it's gone, done, career over. It seemed like I had nothing to show for it. And so while I'm studying for this test, I'm still living in Southern Illinois. And eventually I take the test, I pass it, and it's like, okay, like come out to Arizona. And so I move out to Arizona with $1,000 in my bank account, move into a house with 3 other dudes. One of the dudes actually moved out like literally right after. So I'm living in a house with 3 other dudes in Old Town Scottsdale. And I'm working this 9-to-5 job, and I'm going to the job every day. And this whole time I had figured out, I'd taken the studying from my baseball career and implemented it into watching YouTube videos, reading books, listening to podcasts of people that were in real estate, of people that were in business. And I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about it. So I fully immersed myself in this self-help journey. And, I kind of just got caught up in like the 9-to-5, like lifestyle. If you've ever worked a 9-to-5 before, if you work a 9-to-5, you probably look around and see there's just a lot of average people. There's a lot of people that don't really want very much for themselves, that aren't life maxing, if you will. And it's my mission to become the 10.0 version of myself and document the entire journey to inspire others and help them do the exact same. And so I'm sitting here watching people just leave so much on the table. And I looked at the successful loan officers in my office who were making $500,000, $1 million plus a year. And I'm like, I wouldn't trade places with these guys. It just doesn't seem like a life that I want. I'm not super passionate about this. I'm a ball player deep down. That's really what I cared about. And so at the same time, I know that this isn't the path that I want to go on, but I'm not really doing anything about it. I'm still going out on the weekends. I'm, smoking weed. I'm doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. And one night, it was actually on the 8-year anniversary of my grandmother's passing, my dad's mom. I did a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have, was under the influence, got behind the wheel of a car, and I remember driving, being completely out of control and actually being scared. being like, oh wow, like I could actually ruin my life right now. I became like very self-aware. And I was like, I don't want to be drunk right now. And like I could get in a lot of trouble right now. And so from that point on, I was like, I'm going to make a change in my life. Stop drinking cold turkey, stop smoking, stop doing any of that stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to lock in. Like, I don't know what exactly I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure something out. And like, I start writing out, like, who do I want to be when I'm 40 years old? And I start visualizing it, and I start reading more books, and I'm listening to like literally a book a week on audio, and I'm going for walks, and I'm waking up early, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm journaling. And I'm like finally starting to build this momentum in my life in the right direction, but nothing's really happening. You know, I don't have any moves. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure something out. I start seeing these people make money with online fitness training, and I'm like, I'm pretty strong. Like, why don't I try this? So like, I start just posting random content of like my workouts and stuff, and nobody's watching it obviously because I'm terrible at making content at this point. And then all of a sudden one day, in August of 2022, one of my old teammates hits me up and he's like, hey, I just moved into a house in Old Town, right down the street from where you are. You should come check the place out. And so I go over to the place, and it's him and one of his friends who now is like a really good friend of mine. And this kid was in town to train with him. Like the friend was in town to train with him. And so they're sitting there, and it's my friend, the kid that he's training, and then the kid brought a cat, and like literally the most amount of weed I've ever seen on the counter. And they're sitting there just smoking in the living room. And I'm like, what is going on? And homie's like, yeah, I want to start training people online. I'm like, what? This is crazy. But at the time, he had like 40,000 followers on Instagram and maybe like 10,000 on Twitter. And I'm like, okay, well, are you making any money? He's like, nah, I was just in this business partnership with this other guy, and he was kind of shorting me, so I got out. I just want to do my own thing. I'm like, okay, cool. What do you know about marketing and sales? Because this whole time, I'm working my mortgage job, and I'm on the phone all day long. And at the time, I thought I was a pretty good salesman. Turns out, I wasn't nearly as good of a salesman as I thought I was. I'm just a pretty smooth talker. Anyway, I start asking him, like, what do you know about marketing and sales and this and that? And he's like, nothing. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, I could probably help him. I could get in the game. So what we do is we make a case study of homeboy who's staying with him. And he went from like 88 miles an hour to 94 miles an hour, okay? And so we make a case study, and we make two pages, a case study, and we make a direct funnel. So basically all these is there are 2 links in his bio. One of them has a main video that says, this is how the program works, this is how the online program works, with a button to apply. And when they clicked on that button, they would fill out an application, and on the next page, they'd have the opportunity to schedule a call. And then the other case study was the exact same. It was just the video of the case study that we did, which was walking through his entire journey working with my friend and future business partner, which I'll get into. And then they click on the button to apply, takes them to the exact same application, okay? So we have 2 links in his bio. They both end up going to the application. One of them is like proof, and one of them is more direct. And I was like, hey, bro, I think, I can help you. And so I initially pitch him on, hey, 30%, or we agreed on like 30% of the sale, and I'll do all the sales. So like any of the leads that come in, I'll call them, I'll get them on a call, pitch them the program, and then you train them. So turns out he was able to get a lot of leads, okay? So we are building this entire thing for the month of September, and we build the pages, and we even built a program on Google Sheets that we were going to train these athletes on. And I'm like, all right, bro, it's ready. Like, let's go live. So we go live on October 2nd. We launch this program. It's called the 12-week Flamethrower Blueprint. And as soon as he launches it, we start getting leads. And meanwhile, he had put like the makeshift beginnings of a mound in the backyard, and like he had a bunch of like weight room equipment from when he signed with a professional team, and had a little bit of money and spent a lot of his money on the training equipment. And so in the backyard, in like the carport of a Scottsdale house in Old Town, we had like a squat rack, and then in the backyard there was like a full weight room, and then there was a mound in the backyard. And so in this month of October, we make $20,000. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. The second month, we made $28,000 in November. November 1st or December 1st, quit my 9-to-5 job. About halfway through November, he was like, hey, I'm gonna need you around full time during winter break, because we're gonna have, a bunch of athletes come through for winter break. And I'm like, well, if we do that, we're gonna need to be 50-50 partners. Like, I'm in on this. I built the entire program. I built the whole sales process. I'm even helping like train some of the kids. I'm around every day. I'm like, we're gonna do this together, or I'm not quitting my job. Like I wanted in the game, right? And he was like, all right, like let's do it. He was definitely hesitant about it, but he was like, let's do it. And so the next month, we do like $30,000 in December, run live at bats. We have major leaguers at these live at bats. We have pro guys. Like, it's absolutely insane. We train over 250 athletes in 10 months of working together, and we blew up on social media. It was crazy. And after 2 months of launching our online program, I quit my 9-to-5 job, went all in for it. And then, the partnership, I got some videos on this channel that talk about how the partnership ended, but essentially, he accused me of money laundering with our accountants. He was doing a good amount of substances, let's just put it that way. Kind of went off of his rocker. Long story short, we end up splitting up. And I'm like, well, I have no idea what I'm gonna do now. I kind of always had in the back of my head, because I had seen these people selling consulting and coaching on the internet, that maybe I would do a little bit of coaching. Like maybe I would do that like in the future. But then this whole thing falls apart, and I'm like, well, to be honest with you, I didn't really want to do the coaching ever in the first place. I just wanted to run the business. I wasn't as passionate about the coaching part. I was way more passionate about the business and the numbers and the metrics and the sales and the marketing and building the program and all this stuff. So I was like, well, how can I stay in the game and connected, but do the things that I'm actually really passionate about, that I've come to learn? And voila, that's how my coaching program now came about, right? And how I quit my 9-to-5 job, had a bunch of success with online coaching. The thing crumbles, I don't know what to do, but I figured, why not just leverage the skill set that I'm already good at, and then help other people who are way more passionate about the coaching side learn the skills, so that way they can monetize it. And now we've helped people quit their 9-to-5 jobs and make over $100,000 a month. And, I host quarterly events. I got my next one coming up in Nashville, Tennessee here in literally 3 weeks, which is unbelievable. I think we're gonna have like 50 people there, which is pretty cool. So all that came because I was just a ball player that didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job, that refused to have a plan B, that never gave up on myself, and had this unwavering belief and confidence that I could make it happen. And now we've worked with almost 500 coaches, which is insane. So that's how I quit my 9-to-5 job and to coach athletes online full time. And that's how I do what I do now. So appreciate you watching. Hopefully you got a ton of value from this. And if you want to learn how I actually help my clients grow their coaching businesses online, I got a full breakdown. You can just watch that video right here. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.